Did you know that a simple vegetable can help lower A1C naturally in people with diabetes? It's not medicine, it's not expensive, and it may already be part of your daily routine. Today you will understand how this food works in the body and why it can make a real difference in long-term blood sugar control. Let's go to today's.
Millions of people try to control diabetes every day, believing that the solution is only in medication, lab tests, and strict restrictions, without realizing that a simple vegetable, common in grocery stores and present in many kitchens, can directly influence A1C and blood sugar levels. What makes this even more surprising is that this vegetable is not expensive, not exotic, and not a miracle supplement. Yet very few people connect its regular consumption with long-term blood sugar control, while most focus only on daily glucose readings. The real danger lies in the silent accumulation that leads to higher A1C, proving that repeated habits matter more than isolated decisions. The idea that only medication controls diabetes has created a form of nutritional blindness, causing people to ignore the true impact of simple foods on insulin resistance and on glucose spikes that happen without warning. When a vegetable helps reduce blood sugar after meals, it does not act only in that moment, but contributes to a pattern of stable glucose levels that shows up in the A1C test weeks later. This changes the way people see food in diabetes, shifting it from a list of restrictions to an active strategy for blood sugar control. What is most striking is realizing that something that looks insignificant on the plate can be decisive for test results, and that many people live with high blood sugar without knowing that a simple dietary adjustment could lower this risk. This is the kind of information rarely explained clearly, but it can make a real difference. For anyone who wants to manage diabetes in a more conscious and sustainable way, A1C is a test that shows how your blood sugar levels behaved over the last 2 to 3 months, not just at a single moment of the day. While a regular glucose test shows how much sugar is in your blood right now, A1C reveals the real pattern of diabetes control, indicating whether blood sugar control is truly working or if frequent glucose spikes are happening silently. This number is so important because it reflects the cumulative effect of daily habits, including food choices, meal timing, after-dinner routines, and physical activity. Doctors use A1C as a primary reference to evaluate whether diabetes management is effective, because it shows if a person lives in a state of stability or experiences repeated episodes of high blood sugar over time. Many people believe they are doing well just because their fasting glucose looks normal on some days. But A1C can reveal that for most of the time, the body is dealing with blood sugar high without obvious symptoms. This happens because the test measures how much sugar has attached to blood cells, creating a reliable picture of average glucose levels in the body. When A1C rises, it means the body is being exposed repeatedly to glucose spikes, which increases insulin resistance and accelerates metabolic stress caused by diabetes. That is why controlling only daily glucose is not enough. It is necessary to reduce post-meal glucose spikes and maintain consistent blood sugar control. A1C is not a single number, but the result of repeated daily decisions, especially those related to eating habits, nighttime behavior, and what happens after dinner. Every meal, every late snack, and every night with high blood sugar quietly adds up to the final result. Understanding A1C means understanding that diabetes is not decided in one test, but built month after month by habits that seem small, yet determine whether the body stays in balance or moves toward glycemic imbalance. If you are here right now, it means you are part of a group of people who want to truly understand diabetes, instead of just following rules without knowing why. At Health Insight MD, you are not alone in this journey. This channel is for those who choose to take control of their blood sugar, instead of letting diabetes decide everything. If this message resonates with you, it is because this space was made for people who want real blood sugar control. Diet influences A1C so strongly because this test does not measure just one day of glucose. It reflects the accumulation of blood sugar levels over weeks. Every food choice, every meal, and every after-dinner habit leaves a direct mark on the final result. When a person consumes foods that cause glucose spikes frequently, even in small portions, the body spends more time in a state of high blood sugar, which translates into a higher A1C. This happens because the body records the average glucose levels and turns repeated spikes into a number that shows whether blood sugar control is working or not. The key point is that A1C is not changed by isolated decisions, but by daily patterns. Small adjustments in eating habits, such as reducing carbohydrates at night, improving food combinations, or respecting meal timing, can significantly reduce episodes of diabetes glucose spike. When these simple changes are maintained over weeks, they directly improve A1C without relying only on medication. For people with diabetes, this is empowering, because it shows that control is not only found in pills, but also on the plate. A1C works like a mirror of habits. When routine includes foods that raise glucose, the number rises. When diet supports stability, A1C goes down. That is why doctors emphasize nutritional changes, because they affect not only blood sugar after meals, but the overall average in the body. Understanding this means realizing that every meal is an opportunity to reduce insulin resistance and improve diabetes management. Food does not act in a single moment, it builds, day after day. The scenario that determines whether the body stays in balance or remains in constant glycemic instability. Now comes the part that surprises many people. The vegetable that stands out when it comes to glucose control is something you probably see at the grocery store or already have in your kitchen: broccoli. It is not a medicine, it is not expensive, and it is not exotic. That is exactly why most people never imagine it can help directly with blood sugar control and A1C. Broccoli stands out because it is rich in fiber, antioxidants, and compounds that help slow down the absorption of glucose into the bloodstream. This means fewer glucose spikes after meals and more stable blood sugar levels throughout the day. For people with diabetes, this detail is powerful, because every spike you avoid today influences your future results. In addition, broccoli is easy to recognize, easy to find, and easy to prepare, which makes it possible to turn this knowledge into a real habit. It appears in open markets, supermarkets, frozen food sections, and even ready-made meals, making daily use realistic. When we talk about diabetes glucose spike, we are not talking only about sugar, but about how fast glucose enters the blood. That is exactly where this vegetable draws attention. It helps make that entry slower, more controlled, and less aggressive for the body. This is why it becomes a clear example of how a simple food can directly affect diabetes management. Many people look for expensive solutions to lower A1C, but ignore that small changes, such as adding the right vegetables to meals, already begin to shift blood sugar after meals. Broccoli represents that idea, something common, accessible, and underestimated, that can become a silent ally against glycemic imbalance and insulin resistance over time. When we talk about how this vegetable acts in the body, we are talking about a direct effect on blood sugar and on the way the organism handles glucose after meals. This vegetable is rich in fiber, bioactive compounds, and nutrients that slow down sugar absorption in the intestine, preventing a fast glucose spike after eating. This means that instead of glucose entering the bloodstream all at once, it is released more gradually, keeping blood sugar levels more stable over time. For people with diabetes, this effect is essential for blood sugar control because it reduces sharp spikes and sudden drops that overload the pancreas and worsen insulin resistance. This vegetable also helps improve the cell's response to insulin, making it easier for glucose to enter the cells and reducing the amount of sugar circulating in the blood, especially after main meals. Another important point is that this vegetable supports metabolic balance throughout the day and also during the after-dinner period, when the body tends to have lower insulin sensitivity. When included in meals, it reduces the impact of carbohydrates eaten at the same time and lowers the chance of a nighttime diabetes glucose spike. In addition, its compounds help modulate inflammatory processes linked to diabetes and insulin resistance, contributing to more efficient blood sugar levels control over time. This is not an immediate effect, like a medication, but an accumulative effect. Each meal with this vegetable means less stress on the body, fewer glucose spikes, and greater metabolic stability. That is how simple habits begin to influence exams like A1C, because the body spends less time in a state of high blood sugar. In practice, this vegetable works as a natural regulator of the rhythm of glucose in the blood. It does not remove sugar from the diet, but it changes how it is absorbed and used. This explains why people who adopt this type of food consistently can improve diabetes, blood sugar control without relying only on medication. By slowing carbohydrate digestion and improving insulin action, the body enters a more stable pattern, with fewer extreme glucose fluctuations throughout the day. This is the type of effect that does not appear in a single isolated test, but shows up over time, when A1C begins to drop as a result of fewer spikes and more balanced blood sugar levels. That is why this vegetable draws so much attention when the topic is glucose control and diabetes management based on real daily habits.
Many people believe they are doing the right thing because they eat vegetables. But the mistake lies in how, when, and with what these foods are consumed. One of the most common problems is eating vegetables together with large amounts of refined carbohydrates such as white bread, excess rice, pasta, or desserts. In this situation, even a healthy food loses part of its effect on blood sugar control because the sugar load of the meal remains high and triggers a glucose spike. For people with diabetes, this creates the false idea that the vegetable does not work, when in fact the mistake is in the combination Another frequent error is consuming vegetables in very small symbolic portions, not enough to produce a real impact on blood sugar levels and glucose response. Timing also plays an important role. Many people only eat vegetables at night or after dinner, when the body already has lower insulin sensitivity and a slower metabolism. During the after-dinner period, even healthy foods may have less effect on glucose control, especially when combined with carbohydrates or sweets. This increases the risk of diabetes night glucose spikes and high glucose at night. In addition, vegetables are often prepared in the wrong way, with too much oil, processed sauces, hidden sugar, or frying, turning a food that should support diabetes blood sugar control into part of the problem. Another critical issue is treating vegetables as an isolated action while keeping the rest of the eating routine unbalanced. Some people believe that a plate of salad compensates for poor choices made throughout the day, but A1C and lab results reflect the overall pattern of habits, not a single moment. When vegetables are added only as a detail and not as a real strategy, the impact on insulin resistance and glycemic control becomes minimal. The body continues to receive constant sugar stimulation, and the benefits of vegetables are neutralized.
Including this vegetable in your daily routine is simpler than it seems and can make a real difference in blood sugar control for people with diabetes. At lunch, it can be the base of the plate, eaten raw, in salads, or lightly cooked, helping slow carbohydrate absorption and preventing a glucose spike after meals. When this vegetable is eaten before or together with rice, beans, or other carbohydrate sources, it creates a natural protective effect on blood sugar levels. At dinner, it should be consumed in moderate portions, preferably combined with protein and with fewer carbohydrates, which helps prevent high glucose at night and improves diabetes. Night glucose control. In its raw form, in simple salads, this vegetable preserves fibers and compounds that support satiety and glucose control. When steamed or quickly sautéed, it remains a practical option for people with diabetes who need consistent habits. The key is to avoid processed sauces, hidden sugars, and excess oil, because these can cancel out the benefit on blood sugar after meals. Small daily portions have a greater impact on A1C than large amounts eaten occasionally, since the test reflects months of eating behavior, not just one day. Another practical approach is to make this vegetable a regular side dish at main meals. At lunch, it can replace part of the carbohydrates on the plate. At dinner, it can become the main base alongside a light protein. For those who feel hungry between meals, it can be included in small portions as part of a diabetes lifestyle strategy, helping control appetite and reduce glucose spikes. This regular pattern supports better insulin response over time and lowers the risk of insulin resistance, creating a more stable pattern of glycemic control. It is important to be clear that this vegetable is not medicine, it is not a cure, and it does not replace medical treatment for people with diabetes. It does not work alone, and it cannot fix years of poor control in a few days. Its role is to support blood sugar control as part of a broader strategy, not as a single solution. Many people create the illusion that eating one specific food will automatically lower their A1C. But this test reflects months of habits, not one meal. Without changes in eating patterns, meal timing, and portion control, the risk of a glucose spike remains, even if this vegetable is on the plate. This vegetable also does not cancel out the effects of sugary or highly processed foods. Eating it while maintaining habits that cause high blood sugar at night or post-dinner blood sugar spikes is like trying to stop a fire with a small glass of water. For people with diabetes, it works as support, not as a replacement for proper strategy. It helps improve blood sugar levels when combined with conscious food choices, reduced excess, and attention to night habits. Believing that it works alone is a mistake that can delay real results and increase the risk of insulin resistance over time. The truth is that no vegetable, no matter how beneficial, can fully compensate for a routine of poor habits. Its purpose is to strengthen glucose control within a larger diabetes lifestyle and glycemic control plan. It helps, but it is not a miracle. This honest approach builds trust because it does not sell false promises, but instead teaches how to use food as a real tool for diabetes management. When people understand this, they stop looking for shortcuts and start building long-term results to reduce glucose spikes, stabilize blood sugar after meals, and improve A1C with consistency. The benefits of this vegetable go far beyond A1C when it is included regularly in the diet. The body handles glucose intake better throughout the day. This means fewer glucose spikes after meals and more stable blood sugar levels, especially for people with diabetes. One of the first noticeable effects is increased satiety, because it is rich in fiber and has a low glycemic impact. This food helps reduce hunger shortly after eating, preventing snacking that raises blood sugar after meals and disrupts glycemic control. Another important benefit is a reduction in sugar cravings. When glucose remains more stable, the brain receives fewer emergency signals for quick energy, which decreases the desire for sweets. This supports daily diabetes management and lowers the risk of choices that lead to high blood sugar at night. In addition, this vegetable contributes to slower glucose absorption into the bloodstream, helping maintain more consistent energy levels and avoiding sharp rises followed by sudden drops, which are common in people with insulin resistance. Over the course of the day, these effects build up. Fewer spikes mean less strain on the pancreas, improved insulin response, and greater ease in maintaining blood sugar control. This directly affects the routine of people with diabetes because it makes control less dependent only on medication and more connected to consistent habits. With more stable levels, individuals tend to feel less fatigued, more focused, and more motivated to follow a balanced diabetes lifestyle. These benefits do not appear overnight, but they strengthen with daily repetition, influencing not only A1C, but also how the body responds to food at every meal. Controlling A1C is not about luck. It is the direct result of the habits you repeat every day. When you understand how food and daily choices affect your glucose, control stops being a mystery and becomes something achievable. If this video helped you see that more clearly, it makes sense to keep learning here on the Health Insight MD channel, where everything is explained in a simple and practical way about how to eat better to manage diabetes. If you made it to the end with me, leave a comment saying this message was for me, so I know you stayed until the end. And if this conversation connected with you, a like is a natural way to show that and support this kind of content. There's a video right here that complements this topic, so click it now and keep going with me there.